Action.
Hello, everybody. This is No Filter MMA. It is my honor, my privilege to be here the morning, I guess it's technically afternoon, where all of us are, after UFC 255 that saw Valentina Shevchenko and Davison Figueiredo retain their belts. I'm John Rialjo. That's, of course, BJ Johnson getting high, Joe Gravel, and Sergio Pinheiro. And we're here to discuss the card. And if it's anything like the group chat that we had last night, I think things could get a little crazy. I think things could get a little crazy here because they felt like they were starting to get a little almost, it didn't get out of hand last night, but it felt like it almost could have. And then I eased back and I was like, nope, I'm going to save it for the camera. So here we are. I'm looking forward to it. Fellas, how are you guys doing today?
Oh man. I'm a ticking time bomb over here. So
I know.
I think everybody's expecting what I'm going to say. So Joe, Serge, what's good, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm with Sergio. I'm doing good. It was a great card. I'm excited to be here. You know, I had a lot of fun watching that last night. I started off at a Chinese buffet and I ended it at home. So it was good.
Can I ask you guys just like a general overall question for late night pay-per-views?
Yes, sir.
Do you guys just like go to bed right after and then like sleep in the next day? Do you stay up and watch like all like the stuff and then like just get no sleep? Like, how do you guys play that?
I work at 8 a.m. on Sundays, every Sunday. So last night I went to bed at like 2:30. My alarm went off at 7. So sacrifices we make for the sport we love.
It's not bad. Now the people in Europe would be, mad that you would say that but they get free pay-per-views, so
Yeah, I was going to ask you that actually, John, or the chat that one time, because I was wondering what everyone did. But usually when the fights end, I watch a little bit of what ESPN Plus does after. Like they'll discuss it, and then when that ends, I kind of just like drift off and like fall asleep. But then as soon as I wake up in the morning, which is usually very early, I get right to everything Dana said, the post-fight interviews, and I start catching up then. And then by around, the time football starts, I'm all good with MMA.
Yeah, that's the same, man. I stick around like after the cards. I usually stick around for like the post-fight press conference. Like Joe said, I want to hear what Dana has to say. I want to hear what the fighters have to say. The stupid fucking questions that the media people ask. You know what I'm saying? Like, for some reason, I stick around for that bullshit. But after that, I'm usually out. Then I wake up in the morning and see what the internet has to say.
And yeah. Cool. I was just wondering. I don't know why, but I've always wondered how people like handle those situations.
What's your play, John? What do you like to do?
I fell asleep like towards the tail end of Dana at the press conference, and I was up by like 6:30 today. Yeah. So I'll probably take a nap maybe, and then feel like trash, and then like just try to do better tomorrow. But I feel all right now. I feel all right.
So, UFC 255 went down last night. I thought coming out the gate, the Louis Koski and Sasha Palanikov fight, that fight was a fucking, Louis Koski bought it to Sasha in that first round. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that he wasn't going to finish Sasha. Like, the shots that he landed. But what I loved about what I saw from Sasha Palatkinov is that he stayed patient. I know he was a former champion in another division. Another organization. He stayed patient and he picked his shots, very clean shots that I saw. And that kind of stood out to me, the way like he was so composed, even with taking that much damage in that first round. Like he was so composed. It was his UFC debut. He was up against an undefeated guy. He relied on his championship experience, and he just fucking came out and dominated the rest. It was kind of back and forth in round 2. But round 3, man, he got the finish, man, and it was absolutely beautiful. That fight stuck out a lot to me just because of the way he, the way he overcame that adversity, because Louis Koski was beating his fucking ass in that first round.
That first round for me was probably one of the best rounds I've seen in a very long time. Like the last one I remember like that, where it was so back and forth, was the Matt Brown, Eric Silva fight.
Yeah.
I thought that round was very reminiscent of that. Kosi had him hurt, and then Sasha kind of picked it up near the end. I thought it was deserving of fight of the night too.
Absolutely.
You rarely see the first fight of the night or get fight of the night. Like usually they wait and tends to be bigger names, but I think both those guys deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as the fight ended, I said that we might have just had our fight of the night in the first fight, which is epic when you know how much you have to go. And that's crazy you said that, Sergio, because it honestly reminded me a little bit of Matt Brown versus Miguel Baez's first round, which just recently happened where they went back and forth. Yeah, I mean, he was an underdog too, Sasha, so that's a good victory. That's a good win. And the way he finished him was brutal, having him in that fetal position and just hooking his head like that.
Yeah.
That was a crazy finish. It was a good fight. I thought I know we're going to talk about it, but I thought Joban and Gooden was up there too for a possible fight of the night.
Oh man, yeah, man. You know, Joban, man, like he looked great after being off for so long. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like he was same thing with him, man. He took that damage, he wore that damage, but he stuck to his game plan. I love when somebody sticks to their fucking game plan and it works for him. That's exactly what Joban. He fought like classic Joban. I seen him throw him with some power out there, some heat. He looked in shape. He took some damage in that fight, man. But I thought he looked great.
Yeah, I did too. And like it kind of with the damage that but Gooden had his moments in that fight too, though. Like, that was a really good fight. Like, and I think that fight is like what kind of got a little bit underrated only because of how good the first one was. And then it was like, it wasn't better than the first fight, but it was a pretty good fight. And Gooden had his moments too, but Joban tough as nails. And yeah, I thought he fought pretty well. And like you said, he had a long layoff, which made it even more impressive. He's getting older, but definitely a great performance.
I think this one was a little bit more technical. Like the first one was great, the first round half, and then it just kind of got, especially on Kosi's side of things, he got tired and got sloppy. I mean, for the most part, Gooden and Joban were both neither one of them gassed. So I thought it was more technical fight, but as I tend to like crazy violence, and it doesn't matter if they're tired or not. I like it when they put their pins down and start swinging. So I like the first one more, but like you said, this one could have also gotten fight of the night as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you look at the stats, you got Alan Joban. He threw 169 total strikes. And then if you remember, in the final 20 seconds of round 3, he's trying to finish the fight with a guillotine choke. You know what I mean? So that's crazy. He still had any energy or anything left in his arms after throwing that many strikes and he was like yelling and there was blood running. Yeah, it was crazy. And like after throwing 170 strikes, I mean, to still be trying to choke somebody out, that's like you were saying, Sergio, the cardio was there. They were going to war. Like, I agree. Maybe not better than the first fight because it's a little more technical, but definitely up there. Definitely a great fight.
I think an extra 5 seconds, and he could have made him tap.
Yeah,
it was very close.
It got deep toward the end there.
Definitely
got pretty deep. You know, go ahead, John.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I mean, like it was kind of like the screams were interesting, but like in the moment, I kind of liked it. And I'm typically the kind of guy who would like make fun of that type of stuff and not be a fan of it. But in the moment, I didn't hate it. Yeah, I mean, great performance from Alan Joban for sure.
I do think the screams would have been way more epic had he gotten that finish. Like, he's quiet for 14 and a half minutes, and then he starts screaming and then makes the guy tap. Like, I think that would have been epic. But
that 5-second video of like him like screaming as the tap is happening would be like definitely replayed over in like UFC hype videos for sure.
Yeah, looking brutal.
Yeah.
So we skipped the fight, huh? Kyle Dawkins.
Yeah, it's Kyle Dawkins. Yeah, what do you guys think about that fight? What do you guys take from that fight?
Well, Stoltzfus I thought looked good. There was a lot of questions surrounding him because obviously he had that win on the Contender Series. It was a win. The guy dislocated his shoulder, so Speaking of dislocations, we'll go into that a bit later. But yeah, so I thought he looked good, but Kyle Dawkins for me was just on another level. He showed why he could go 3 full rounds with Brendan Allen. The guy's very, very good, very, very skilled. I think we have a bright star in Kyle Dawkins. I think both him and Chris are, 2 more brothers added to the UFC who are really, really talented and could be around for a while.
Yeah, I like these Dawkins brothers. They're always fun to watch. That fight with Brendan Allen, and then he comes in and he wins this fight. His stock just continues to rise. He's shooting for takedowns relentlessly. He can stand and box. Like, he's just a good, well-rounded fighter. I like the Dawkins brothers. Like, everybody from Philadelphia, I feel like, has a certain like swag to them in the UFC, and they fight pretty hard. So,
BJ, you're muted. If you want to stay like that for the rest of the time, I'm cool.
That was hilarious.
Hey, John. I don't think Kyle Dawkins looks like a middleweight, though. Is it me, or just does he not look like a middle? He looks more like a. He looks like a. It's like I don't know. He just doesn't look like a middleweight. He looks small in there with Stokes. He looks skinny, thin.
The weird thing was he's competed at heavyweight. So I don't know why. I thought the same thing. I was like, when they announced that on the broadcast, I was like, it seems weird that he competes at such a high weight class. But yeah.
Can I say something?
Oh boy.
I've been chewing on this topic for a little while about like weight cuts and weight classes and all this kind of stuff. And all I'm saying is Pettis goes up to welterweight and knocks out Wonder Boy, and he's like going to become like the next thing because he's not cutting weight. And then what's he do? He loses to Diaz, and then he goes back down to lightweight. Rafael Dos Anjos couldn't buy a bucket up at welterweight for a while, and then he goes back down to lightweight. And we see all these fighters like Buckley weighed like 182 pounds, like he's like like there's all of these like situations going on here where it's like, I don't know, like everyone talks about like, oh, like, well, you perform better when you don't have to weight cut, and then like people end up inevitably going back down to the weight class that they were struggling at. And like there was like that fight on the Contender Series when the guy weighed like 206.8 pounds or whatever it was, and he was fighting a guy like at the limit and he wins. I don't know. Maybe I've been chewing on it. Maybe you guys think about it and then we can readdress it at a later time. But maybe just like the better fighters like win the fights. Maybe like it's a situation like that.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, John, where like it wouldn't benefit you necessarily to say like you walk around at 170, so you fight at 170. But I think the only way not cutting weight benefits you is when you're already down there in the weight has been cut, right? And you're already in that realm, but then you walk in like 5 pounds over. And I think there's like a lot of fighters who have done that, win the fights because they come in heavy, Mackenzie Dern, blah, blah, blah. So in that case, because you didn't suffer that week and you didn't drop the 5 extra, you had a little advantage because you didn't cut weight, but you still cut from your big walking weight down to where you're more advantageous. Like, Davis and Figueroa, for example.
It's like a sweet spot before. It's like the sweet spot between peaking your performance and killing your body. You're right in that sweet spot. Yeah.
Because I believe that the science behind all of this has been done. I don't think we figured out everything with fighting in MMA. I think there's a lot of growth to still be done. But I think as how to go into a fight at your peak, I think that's all been figured out. And I think cutting weight is a thing. So then you come in the next day bigger, stronger, better, faster. Because Figueroa, he's a guy with a massive frame. Like he's a big framed little guy. And then he gets to 125. And like Joe Rogan said last night, and I doubt it's true, but it looked like he's 145 pounds in there. Probably maybe 138 or something. But he's fighting a guy who looks significantly smaller. So I think no matter what, you need to cut weight and get down. But I think it's the guys who do like the death cuts where it's like, oh man, he should move up. I think it's, it's all case specific, fighter specific. But I think everything you said is right though, John. The better fighters are going to win.
I do think it also has to do with styles. Like a guy, for example, who's cutting down to 155 from 170 and he's a power puncher, the guys he's fighting may not have the same chins as some of the guys at 170. But I don't think your technique isn't going to get any better if you change weight classes. Your reach isn't going to be any longer. So I think the only way it affects you is if you're a power puncher or if you're a wrestler and you have that size advantage. But I think outside of that, it really doesn't make much of a difference, especially for a guy like Pettis. Like Pettis is not known as a knockout hitter. Yeah, he had that punch against Wonderboy, but outside of that, he's not a wrestler. He's not going to overpower you, and he's not going to knock you out with a punch unless you're Wonderboy. So I think for guys like that, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Guy like Brock Lesnar, guy like Ngannou, who use their size, obviously, I think it's different for them, but I think for the most part, it doesn't change.
All right.
Comment section. Reggie the Tree says, BJ, morning, bro, and morning panel. What's up, guys? What's up, Reggie, man? We just on here cooking, bro. What we gonna say, John? Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say thank you. I apologize for the sidebar conversation there, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Tangent alert, hey man, that's what we do, man. That's what we do. So next up, guys, the next fight that happened was, to me, the snoozer. There's always a snoozer of the night. I'm gonna use my John voice here. And there's always that one fight that doesn't really, but for me, it was Daniel Rodriguez and Nicholas Dolby. What you guys think? That fight was like one. I was looking at it like one was scared and the other one was happy.
I think when you put it on this card, I mean, this card had a lot of good fights.
Yeah,
a lot of very good fights. I mean, even the Tim Means one was a lot of fun. There were some good fights on this card. So when you throw this one in there, and yeah, it was a snoozer, but I think if you put this on most other cards, it was a good fight.
Right. It was out of context in a way.
Yeah. But yeah, I personally thought the decision should have went the other way. But when fights are this close, and it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I had it going the other way.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Rodriguez in this fight. I used to be a big fan of Dolby's, and then it's not like I stopped being a fan, but then he had a few lackluster performances. I'm not saying that's what Rodriguez did here, but I'm a big fan of his, and I really thought he was going to get the knockout, and I thought there was opportunities, and he just, I think even himself would say that he just didn't take advantage of them. But when you look at the statistics, you got total strikes, 105 from Rodriguez to 58 from Dolby. Significant strikes, 83 for Rodriguez and 50 for Dolby. I know strikes don't tell the tale of the tape. I heard them even say last night that judges shouldn't even be looking at numbers. I get it. John always brings up very valid points about how to judge a fight, but those are ridiculous numbers. So to Sergio's point, I thought Daniel Rodriguez also won, but it was a decent fight. Like if I was watching that fight in the front row, I would have probably been blown away. But at home, yeah, it was.
Especially following up the Joe Ben fight. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to follow that up.
Yeah, it felt like Dolby was fighting really well, I thought, for stretches, but it felt like at some point Rodriguez was going to land and catch him and just knock him out, and it just never came. Although I do think that Rodriguez did win the fight. It was a close fight, not one to be up in arms about, but it did kind of feel like eventually Rodriguez was going to land, and it just never really happened.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's how I felt. Like I was waiting for the boom, and it never came. It's like a sneeze that you get that tickle in your nose, then you kind of and then it you know what I'm saying? It was kind of like that. That fight was it's uninteresting to me. I'm sorry, guys. I can't try to make up anything about this fight. And
then we got to.
Then we started getting to the good fights. I'm just joking, man. The only thing I can say about this fight is kudos to Antonina Shevchenko, you know what I'm saying? Because she made the type of adjustment that she needed to make because she was on the chopping block. You know what I'm saying? How smart of Antonina to take Lipski down and dominate Lipski like that because, you would think that Lipski didn't want to stand and trade with Antonina, but Antonina was not going to stand and trade with Lipski because with the few shots that Lipski landed flush on Antonina, she did some damage. Antonina's eye was kind of fucked up in that fight. So, I mean, just kudos to Antonina Shevchenko. And I'm not going to sit here and praise Antonina like that because Antonina's still on the hook for taking the easier fight because she dodged Jillian Robertson to take the fight with Ariane Lipski. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Like, I'm still I got ways, something that I feel about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, good job, Antonina, but you took the lesser of two evils. So, okay. And fighters make those moves sometimes, but it is what it is.
I think it's smart too. I mean, I think it's smart to get a win. I mean, she's 36 years old. She's in her sister's footsteps. You lose three out of 4 fights, doesn't look great. So taking a step back and fighting someone not ranked and getting a win, I get it. So I thought she looked good as well. I thought the only thing more badass than this would have been if, like, Francis rebounded from the Stipe loss and took down Derek Lewis. Yeah. But man, like, you lose via wrestling, and then you go out and you wrestle someone to a decision next time out. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's badass.
So kudos to her. She looked good, and she set the tone for her sister, and they both got the W. So good on them.
Yeah, I like Lipski. So I'm not saying do away with her, but she needs to get a big name, or not a big name, but a name on her record. And I thought Antonina could possibly be the one because of what I saw she was capable of on the ground. And Lipski has really good jiu-jitsu, nasty jiu-jitsu, and it just didn't happen. And then something else dawned on me that Antonina is not just gonna, with her sister, go on these losing streaks or just, you know what I mean? They're gonna make adjustments, and I really thought she would start fighting well and doing good in this fight, but I was torn when I was looking at this one, and it was a good fight, but yeah, Lipski, she's a little disappointing at the moment.
Whoa. Now my girl Lipski gonna bounce back now. She gonna bounce back. She'll be back.
I'm glad you said that because guys, BJ, Ariane Lipski sucks. I'm sorry. I came in and I wanted her to be. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Whoa. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
BJ, if Ariane Lipski wasn't hot as shit, then you would not care about her.
That's not true.
That is a fact. And I'm not saying that's the case with all fighters. And like, it just so happens that Montana De La Rosa and Jillian Robertson are attractive as well. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it. But I'm saying when it comes to Ariane Lipski, dude, what has she shown? What has she shown in the UFC that makes you think that she can win against a quality opponent? Nothing. She has not shown anything. She was dominated by Joanne Calderwood. She was dominated by Molly McCann. She picks up a couple wins. Granted, it was a great submission in her last fight.
But you focused on her. You focused on her losses and you skim over her wins. How can you skim over her wins and then?
All right, let's talk about them. Let's talk about them. Okay, because I'm pretty sure she tapped against Isabella de Padua, but like if you want to say she didn't, then like fine.
She dominated Isabella de Padua. What are you talking about?
Go watch that fight. Go rewatch that fight. And there was a moment where it looked like she taps. Go rewatch that fight.
It looked like Stipe tapped too.
No. Go rewatch that fight. And then she submits Luna Carolina. Great. That was a great submission. Like, whatever. Fine. But then she fights. But like, are we saying that those are great wins over quality opponents? And then she goes in there against Antonina, who just got dominated, and she gets dominated herself. And you always say that, like, oh, this division, this, that, whatever. And all I'm saying is my issue with what happened last night.
She's young.
Listen,
she's a young fighter.
But you say, but that's not what you say on a day-to-day basis. You say that she's like ready to climb the rankings and fight for the title.
I'll tell you exactly what I say about Ariane Lipski. I say Ariane Lipski, when it has the potential to be one of the most dangerous fighters at 125 pounds. Listen, fighters like Lipski, Liana Jojua, they're young fighters. They can take losses in their careers. They can do that now because they're still young and developing fighters.
You say that the division that they just like love these or they trash on these like tough girls and that there's like all this like whatever at the top and it's just like these like older fighters that are kind of meh and like there's no like new blood and then we see Caitlin Chukagian dominate Antonina Shevchenko and then Antonina Shevchenko fights Ariane Lipski and then dominates her. And it's just like not a great look for Ariane Lipski. Like she hasn't shown us anything. She got destroyed by Calderwood. She got destroyed by McCann. She gets destroyed by Shevchenko. And then she picks up 2 wins against, I'm not even going to say it. We all know what's going on here. She loses against the tough fighters. And I just think that it's just outrageous that you keep like going on the soapbox talking about how they're going to climb the rankings and now if you put in there with Valentina Shevchenko, then she has a legitimate possibility of beating her. And I just think that that's outrageous.
I never said that about Lipski. I have never said that about Ariane Lipski. You take what I say about Jillian and Montana and you spread that across every female that I like. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that Lipski can go in here and beat Valentina. What I'm saying is Lipski has the potential to be one of the with that kind of speed and that kind of power on the feet. Ariane Lipski can hurt girls. She can hurt girls. She
can hurt herself in there if she's not careful.
She needs to get her ground game together. Don't confuse what I'm saying. What I say, she's a developing fighter. But just like Liana Jojua, you don't hear me preaching that Jojua's gonna go in here and beat Valentina. She's a young fighter.
And I'm fine with acknowledging Lipski as a prospect, but
exactly.
but you sound this way after she looks terrible. Like for months, like every time you talk about her, it's like she's like going to become like the next big thing in the flyweight division outside of Jillian Robertson.
I think you're overstating what I say. You're overstating what I say. I always say, watch out for Lipski. That's what I say. That's my message about Lipski. Watch out for Ariane Lipski. She can knock any bitch out at 125 pounds. That's just like fucking Liana Jojua. Watch out for Jojua. She can snatch any neck at 125 pounds. That's what I'm not. The only people that I say that I feel can rise up and beat Valentina Shevchenko has been Macy Barber, Jillian Robertson, and Montana De La Rosa. I don't spread that. Don't blanket that statement across everybody that I talk about now. Be clear.
And then you said that, like, oh, no one else takes like this type of heat. But like no one else talks about these fighters like you do. Like you go on these like. And like I felt bad that you felt bad that you thought that you were getting targeted because like if you look at like could you tell me Sergio's three of Sergio's favorite fighters?
No.
Exactly. And could you do that with Joe? And I gave you Boom Keller and like but you can't. But when it comes to you, it's like, and it's great, and it's not wrong or right. But I'm just saying that's who you are. You go on these like soapboxes about Jillian Robertson and Ariane Lipski and Montana De La Rosa, and that's fine, and we love you for it, and we appreciate that, and it's great, and it's entertaining, and it's fantastic content. But when they look like shit, you're gonna take some heat. Gonna take some heat. That's country territory. If Amanda Hebos gets dominated by Michelle Watterson, you're not gonna make fun of me. You don't think that everyone, bro? Okay,
you better
listen. This is the thing.
I hope you would. I would want you to.
John,
I would have earned that.
Let me pour some water on your fire right quick. Okay, let me pour. Thank you, women. Women in combat sports always got my back.
Wait, before you pour some water on his fire, I just want to say something.
No. I need to put some water on this fire before I forget it. I'm high. I'll forget.
Okay.
Listen, John, the difference between me and you is I am okay with being a fan. You, my friend, are not okay with standing on that, standing on that box for your fighter. You're not okay.
Not true.
Let me finish. I'll let you finish. You're not okay sticking your neck out there like I stick my neck out there. I stick my neck out there and say what I say, and I stand firm on it, and ain't no wind gonna blow these trees, baby. I say it officially on this record right now. I believe Jillian Robertson beats Valentina Shevchenko with that performance that Valentina put on.
We'll get there.
the way Jennifer Maia was able to maintain top control for the entire second round on Valentina Shevchenko, if Jillian Robertson had did that, that fight would have been over. That fight would have been over. I stick my neck out there and I say bold.
I'm not. I've been saying Amanda Ribas was going to be strawweight champion before anybody else was. And I like Priscilla Cachoeira is one of my favorite fighters. I'm just not saying she's going to be champion someday. Like I have other fighters that like I just don't think are going to be champions, but I just like their fights. They're enjoyable. That doesn't like your favorite fighters. You say they're all going to be champions, which like I would say would argue maybe that makes you a front runner, but I wouldn't say that. But like you know what I'm saying?
I have never once said that. I have never said
you just accused me of being afraid to stick my neck out. But what I say, I call it like it is. I say it like it is. My favorite fighters, Amanda Nunes, speaks for itself. Amanda Ribas, back in October of last year when she beat Mackenzie Dern, before anybody else talked about her, I said, I think that this girl is going to be champion. Now it's like popular and everyone's simping her. But before that, I was. Viviane Araújo, I said that I thought that she was going to be flyweight champion, give Valentina a run for her money. And then she went in there against Jessica Ai before I knew you, even though you think that it's been over a year. It hasn't been. And she was like trash against Jessica Ai. And Anthony gave me shit for it because I earned it. And I didn't care because I like Viviane Araújo and I stood and I was saying all this stuff and it didn't come to fruition, even though Jessica Ai weighed like 150,000 pounds in that fight, but it still happened and she didn't look great. So you
stopped saying that Araújo would be a champion when she lost.
No.
Stopped saying that.
She's got to build herself back up. And I never said she'd be champion. I said she'd be an interesting fight for Valentina because of her power.
Why don't you still say that?
I do when she comes up.
I've been saying it about Jillian Robertson since day one. Win, lose, or draw. Because
it doesn't make any sense to talk about Viviane Araújo on a random fight about the men's heavyweight division when she doesn't have a fight coming up. And you use those opportunities to talk about Jillian Robertson. Like we're talking about Jillian Robertson. She's not even fighting on this card. She always just gets into the conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Because I'm a women's MMA channel, mostly like 97% women's MMA on my channel. But I'm also a fan of fighters. I talk about Tatiana Suarez. Do you guys not hear me talk about Tatiana Suarez? Do you guys not hear me talk about Yana Kunitskaya being one of the best strikers at 135 pounds? Do you guys not hear me saying that Macy Chasson can be a problem if she moves up to 145 pounds?
But that's what I'm saying.
MMA as a whole.
But when you talk about your favorite fighters, I think
I'm biased. I'm absolutely 100% biased.
But what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying I'm wrong or right, even though I'm right. When I'm saying that I'm a fan of Priscilla Cachoeira, I think that she could go in there and not get dominated by most of the women in the flyweight division. But it's going to be entertaining as hell. Just because I'm a big fan of Priscilla Cachoeira doesn't mean that I think she's going to be champion. You know what I'm saying? Or that if she fights Valentina again, it could be a different result. No, just because I'm a fan of someone doesn't mean I think that they are exceedingly great and the best. There's other things other reasons why you can like them. But I think we should move on because we have two more flyweight division fights to talk about and it's going to get messy. So let's talk about Joaquin Buckley because he pulled off another crazy finish and he responded very well from that viral knockout. Sergio, how'd you feel about Joaquin Buckley yesterday?
So I was impressed. I mean, I had Jordan Wright winning it, and I don't know why. Looking back, it was such a stupid decision. But I mean, I guess I was wrong. I thought he looked very, very good, and I think the biggest lesson from this is it shows how good Kevin Holland is. Buckley looked unbelievable. He's looked unbelievable his last two fights, and Kevin Holland dominated him, start to finish. So for me, that's the biggest lesson, man. And I think Kevin Holland is a real threat there at 185. That being said, man, Buckley's exciting. He's got a lot of he's fun. I hate the James Krause fight, but I like Buckley.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought he looked great. I thought it was a lot of people. I was watching with a couple guys last night, and they were like, they kept saying, "Is he all hype? Is he all hype?" Because they probably showed that knockout over fucking Impa. They probably showed that shit 50 times leading to, last night. They probably showed that shit 50 to 100 times that night.
They showed it after Bruce Buffer did the introductions.
Yes. John, that was so weird. When that happened, I thought that I lost connection to the fight. I couldn't believe that when it left, John Anik was like, all right, let's get it started. I was like, they really, I mean, I've never seen them milk anything like that knockout.
Yeah, that was crazy. Then he goes out and wins. So, I mean, the hype train tickets are selling right now. You better believe it.
Yeah.
You guys believe it.
He gets the knockout with the feet, and then he gets the knockout with the fists. So that's perfect. You can play him back to back. Sergio, I know why you picked Jordan Wright. He was undefeated, 100% finish rate. They showed on the Fighters You Should Know, what he's been doing, how he got to where he got, and he's coming off a viral KO himself, where he has the roundhouse kick to the head, the spin kick, whatever, and man, he's good, and you could tell he's really tough, and you could tell Buckley's human because of the Kevin Holland fight. I really thought that this guy was going to possibly stop the hype train. Jordan Wright kind of reminds me of Edmund Shabazian. I'm just randomly saying that. Also, Buckley, I mean, when he hit him with those hooks, man, he looked like Mike Tyson. They were shaking Jordan Wright's head to the point where, I don't ever really feel bad for people in there. I felt bad for two people last night. I felt bad for Shogun, and I felt bad for Jordan Wright's head. It looked like he was just handing him concussions. You don't Louis Koski in the first fight. I don't think he maybe had a concussion, but he suffered some brutal punches. But this was violent. Also, I know I shouldn't bring it back up, but the last thing I'll say about it is I feel like this is my girl. I love Hannah Cyphers, but I feel like Lipsky is going the Hannah Cyphers route. Okay? That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Here we go again. But sticking with Buckley, I mean, just as impressive as that knockout was, they were, as much as they showed it, it is, I think it's impressive how he was able to fight, and it wasn't even just a quick one punch knockout. It was just a really impressive performance from Joaquin Buckley.
So where does he go now?
I kind of like Sergio. Don't agree with you guys thought I was gonna like this fight. I don't really love the James Krause fight, but I mean,
why don't this guy reached out to James Krause to ask if he could train at his gym, but James Krause heard that he's a gym hero and he just goes around to gyms hard sparring and knocking people out, and Krause told him, listen, that's not how we train here. We train to get better. There's no need to do that. And Buckley basically was like, all right, fuck that. I don't know, that is a good little storyline for a fight.
It is.
I don't know why you guys don't want to see that. They actually got into it a little, and it's kind of personal, man to man, outside of the martial arts aspect. They kind of, and Buckley really does that. He runs into gyms and throws too. I think that's a cool storyline.
What does this do for James Krause though? That's my. I have no issue if they were both in the same weight class. I wouldn't care. But James Krause is on a little tear right now.
Sergio, I'll tell you, James Krause is like George Washington. Okay, he's got these stories behind him that sound like myths, but they're real. He did this, he did that, all these crazy things you hear, but he really did them. He took a fight on this day's notice. He took the Trevor Johnson. You know what I mean? Why not just add to your resume of doing the craziest shit and fighting Buckley, the guy he looks terrifying to everyone. We know Krause has a better fight IQ, and he could definitely win. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, when you look at it from the drama side of things, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a matchup with a guy like your boy Trevin Giles would make a lot of sense as well. Just kind of keep that 185 staying down that route, 170 staying down that route. But I mean, for drama, man, sure, why not?
When you said your boy, I thought you were going to say Eric Anders.
Me too.
Just throwing that out there.
No.
And I almost wore an Eric Anders shirt. I literally had it, and that would have been full circle. We would have had a moment there, but
I don't mind the Eric Anders fight either.
All right.
Oh, okay. All right. Next fight on the card, to me, was one of the best fights of the night. I think it was one of the best performances, and I think that Brandon Moreno is clearly the one that should be fighting Deiveson Figueiredo for the title. I think he made it very clear that he is that guy. Now, some funky shit happened with the arm. I don't really know much about that. You guys probably know more about it, but what happened exactly to Royval's arm?
He dislocated his shoulder.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And usually, if he could have gotten out of the round, I think, like, seeing how tough he's shown us to be so far, I think he would have been able to pop it back in and continue to fight. I mean, I don't think he would have finished.
Left.
If you remember Jose Aldo, he targeted, whose arm was it? He hurt his shoulder in the fight, so Jose began to kick it relentlessly. He just kicked the shoulder over and over.
The Zombie?
Zombie, yeah. Remember that? So
Yeah.
I think that exact thing would have happened. I think Moreno would have picked up on it and then just attacked it, and I think the pain would have become too much for Royval, but that's just a bold prediction. But I think if he could have escaped the round, but I think if anyone could have, it would have been him, so the pain must have been unbearable, and he got finished.
Well, it does seem like it was like a nagging injury. Like, it seems like it's something that they both were aware of beforehand. Like, he instantly was trying to put it back in. His coach, Mark Montoya, I think, popped it back in right away. So I think it's something that has been lingering. What's going to be interesting, though, is are his future opponents going to attack it? You know what I mean? Like, as someone who has the torn rotator cuff, that's a very, very easy thing to pick up on. And now that it's there, it's probably going to last a while. He's not going to recover in 6 months, 7 months. So his next opponent's probably just going to aim for that shoulder. And that's what I would do if I was facing him next.
Yeah, and it was also what sucked for him is that it popped out and it was also in a compromised position. So like it wasn't even like it was like popped out and he's like squared up with him. Like his shoulder was like he had no choice but to like hope that the ref didn't stop the fight until the buzzer sounded. Like that tough spot. But that was a great fight beforehand. And my dad was watching the prelims and he texted me after the Buckley fight and he's like, damn, that guy's a beast. And I said, yeah, like make sure you watch this next fight because like it's gonna be like a really good one. And my dad texted me after and he's like, yeah, you nailed it. Like, and obviously like we all knew like that fight was probably gonna be good, but like he didn't. So but yeah, I think they showed well I think both fighters showed well for themselves. Brandon Moreno checked that box, took on a really good up and coming fighter, and solidified himself for a title shot. And like obviously, he's getting it in less than a month now at this point. And well deserved. I thought he tried up.
How does he match up to Davidson Figueiredo?
Wait, real quick. I just want to say a lot of people thought Royval was going to win this fight. I would have been shocked if Royval won this fight. Yeah. After I watched the embedded, though, I was a little more sold when he was in his full guard and he was throwing up all those submissions that quickly. I was like, holy shit, I knew his jiu-jitsu was good, but it is so good. And this kid can strike. But he's kind of like a Chimaev. Like he's moving quickly here. And Moreno's been here and he just fought Askar up to that draw and he's been in so many good fights. I was like, there's no way Royval's going to beat this guy. It was one of the picks that, like, when I wrote it down, I wrote Moreno and I never looked back because I was like, he's better than him. If he loses this fight, he beats himself. But and two sick nicknames, huh? The Assassin Baby versus Raw Dog. Like, I loved that. Yeah, I forgot what else I was going to say, but yeah, I just knew Moreno would win this fight. I did. That's it.
Here's what's interesting. I love this title fight. I think if there's anybody that can beat Davison, it's Brandon Moreno. I mean, we've talked about it so many times. I mean, Davison's explosive, right? He's going to finish you. Brandon Moreno's never been finished. In 24 fights, he's never been finished. So I think if there's anybody that can get it done against Figgy, it's Brandon. And I can't wait to watch this fight.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Like, I'm sorry, BJ. I had picked Tim Elliott. I picked Tim Elliott to beat Royval because I looked back on his old tape champion. I was like, damn, he's good. But, I mean, Tim Elliott could catch it. So that's how much I didn't really expect. Like, he kind of just came up like upon us.
Yeah. I thought he was going to lose to both Tim Elliott and Kai. I had Kai winning as well.
Me too.
And he almost kind of did. He was rocked early in that fight.
Yep.
Yeah, remember that? And then he threw the spinning elbow, right, John? Right after.
Changed the whole thing. Like that fight was like well on its way to being a Kai Kara France victory.
He did land that same spinning elbow last night.
Yeah.
Just Brandon Moreno ate that.
Yep. He sure did.
The touchdown, Damian Harris.
What's your early prediction? Of course, we ain't had time to really smolder on the matchup, but
well,
how do you feel about how he matches up? Who did your early prediction between him and Figueiredo?
Can we just quickly touch on the main event then now? Because I think it's probably a good time to do that because we're talking about it. And after last night, what we saw against Benavidez twice, right? What we saw against Tim Elliott, where he just snatched that that neck real quick. And then what we saw against Benavidez, where he just simply, and listen, Benavidez does not get dominated the way he got dominated by Figueiredo twice. And that headbutt, you want to talk about the headbutt, you want to talk about this, that, whatever, the weight cut, the first fight, fine, whatever. But like, Figueiredo dominated this dude twice. And then to do that against a tough guy and Alex Perez, what he did last night, like, I'm sold, man. I'm sold. Like, this, like, there's nothing else that this guy can do. Or that has to do rather for me to like not buy it all in. But Brandon Moreno is a tough ass fighter and he's good. And I think he makes it a fight. And I think things do get interesting if we do get into the championship rounds with Figueiredo. I think that's where, you know, potentially he could get into trouble. But it's just hard to pick and envision the fight going that way. But it is a really interesting fight.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sergio.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, how do you write anyone's name down other than Figgy's at 125? I mean, Cody has that one punch. You know, Brandon Moreno's look great, but when someone's dominated his past four opponents the way Figgy has, it's really, really difficult not to write Figgy's now. My only defense for Brandon Moreno is the fact he's never been finished. So it'll be interesting to see how Figueiredo's cardio will hold up because it's something we haven't seen. We've seen him go 3 rounds, but we haven't seen him go 5. So that'll be interesting. And like we talked about with Mike Rodriguez, he said usually people who are explosive tend to have gas tank issues. So that's the only thing here I could have to offer here that you know, something else to look into. But I mean, if I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would definitely not write Brandon Moreno's down. I'm going Figgy. I don't know how it would go. I think Brandon Moreno may be able to weather the storm, but I think Figgy gets it done.
Yeah, it's just, can you escape? Like you guys are saying, you know, get into the championship rounds. I thought Perez could have had a chance to beat him if he got into the championship rounds, but it's all about, can you escape his power and explosiveness for 3 rounds and get into that point where he gets tired? Or can you tire him out, which we'll probably talk about in a minute, which is what it looked like Maia was trying to do to Shevchenko in the second round, I believe. Like, can you try to tire this person out? I don't know if Moreno can do that because he's not really wrestling oriented. I feel like a power wrestler would be good against Figueiredo. Take him down from start to finish and just try to grind him out. But that being said, I think one of the things like we can't really see with Moreno that I love is his blood. Like he's 100% Mexican, like Mayan or Aztec. I'm not sure which one it is, but through and through. And that blood, like when you go back down that bloodline, it's like he's a warrior. So I think that really does give him an edge. I really do.
I think is the Canelos. Yeah, he's right down there. He's right down that bloodline. Those guys are warriors, like you said.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, you look at like Amanda Nunes, right, who had like gas tank questions early in her career, right? But what has helped her, and it helped her against Valentina, and it's helped her in fights since, is that she has a good ground game and she's an explosive striker like Figueiredo is, of course. But like she also has that ground game to fall back on to where either, all right, maybe she can take a round off and maybe she might be on the bottom for a little while, but she can survive there, or she can take you down and kind of rest on top. And I think that it's so quick to like fall in love with Figueiredo's striking and stuff and like his quick like guillotines that he's snatched up on a couple fighters. But like, if the fight goes to the ground, like he can use that to like, you know, it's a different type of cardio. He could maybe like lean on guys, rest, like whatever. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. And I think that being well-rounded could certainly help your gas tank if you're able to, you know, just kind of like take minutes or even a round off if you have to and are able to kind of aid in that gas tank. I think, you know, and we're talking about like some of the best of the fighters in the world, but.
And I agree, John. And to debunk what I just said, who was the best wrestler in this division? I was just thinking, I'm like, why aren't there any like really good wrestlers in the 120? It was Benavidez. He's the best wrestler. As for like true wrestlers, or Cejudo, right? So he already just beat Benavidez twice and didn't really get a chance to wrestle. He wasn't shooting and doing much of that. So,
but Anthony made a good point in the comment section. Said the scrambles would be interesting. That's what I was getting ready to say, man. Like the scrambles. Brandon Moreno is fast in the scrambling department, man. You know what I'm saying? Like he's super fast, but so is Davidson Figueiredo. So that will be that. Anthony brought that up. That is very fucking interesting because who can snatch who up first if the fight goes to the ground? That's the question. Or if we're in the clinch position, who dominates the clinch in this fight? Who gets top position in this fight if this fight goes to the ground? I think this fight has a 75% chance of going to the ground.
I forgot about Askarov. He's a good wrestler too, and Moreno did fight him to a draw.
It's a great fight. I thought Moreno should have been fighting in the main event last night. I thought he should have got that fight over Perez. Like, nothing against Perez, but I just, I think Moreno's a beast. It's just hard to pick against Figueiredo, but I think it's like there's going to be times in that fight that Moreno looks like the better fighter. I think he can do that for stretches in that, but like overall, I mean, I gotta come on now.
It takes half a second. It takes a slip up.
Exactly.
And you could be in a guillotine.
Even Perez was looking good early on in that fight, and then it was just like boom. Figueiredo transitioned to that like leg lock kind of thing, kind of force a scramble, and then guillotine. See ya, tap in.
Yep,
impressive.
We'll see, man. So, what do you guys think about the Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Paul Craig? Dominant performance by Paul Craig, I think.
It's the end of an era, I think. We've seen fighters like Chuck Liddell, Rich Franklin, the list goes on, where they just kind of reach a point where that's it, and I feel like Shogun hit that point. It reminds me a lot of the Chris Lieben fight, Chris Lieben's fight against, I think it was Uriah Hall, where he just kind of gave up on the stool. And I know it wasn't on the stool, but, when you're tapping to strikes, that's not Shogun. That's not the Shogun that we've gotten to know over the past how many decades, right? So I think that really is the end of Shogun, and if it's not, it should be. But that's not to take anything away from Paul Craig. I think he didn't get the best Shogun that we've ever seen either, but Paul Craig looked good, and I think he showed that he deserves to be in the top 15.
Yeah, I agree with everything Sergio said, but on the other aspect of it, I remember a lot of people thinking that Shogun could win this fight. And now that he's tapped to strikes, it's like, okay, he should retire. And I get that because we never thought we'd say that Shogun tapped to strikes, so that we'd ever see that. I told you that's the second thing that on the card that made me feel bad, truthfully bad watching it, because that was horrible. But before the fight though, we thought maybe he could win. A lot of people are going with Shogun. Maybe he could get this knockout. He's won 5 in his last 7. I think he's got a loss and a draw in there. But I still, with all that being said, agree with Sergio. He should retire. I don't want to. If I'm wondering how the hell you're still doing this, I think you should retire.
Yeah. I think that, the UFC booked him against Nogueira, and it was like that was his opportunity to pick up a win, leave. That was the right time to leave, right? That was it. And now if you tell the UFC, I don't want to retire, I'm going to stick around and continue your fights, all right, well then here you go. Here's Paul Craig. It's oh, you still don't want to retire? Okay, here you go. Here's, whoever, would fight next. And it's the UFC gave him his moment, right? That was that was the perfect, that was a co-main event. That was against a rival, he wins, come on, you retire. That is it. That is your moment. Now I don't feel like the UFC needs to, wear kid gloves if in matchmaking, if he wants to continue. I'd like to see him retire because I don't want that to happen to him. But, Similar
to Joe Lozon, I found. Joe Lozon had that win over Jonathan Pierce, and it was you won it in Boston.
Right.
And he sticks around. And hopefully, I do feel like there has to be a point where the UFC's you got your win, get out of here. Enforce it. You've seen them force it with guys like Big Nog. So why not continue to do that, But it did suck. Like Joe said, it is a little bit heartbreaking when, a guy who's known to be a warrior is forced to tap like that.
I just wanted to say, Sergio, to what you were saying, because it's not a team sport, I think you'll see someone can win a Super Bowl and retire, or a World Series and walk off a champion, because I think it's a team sport that's easier. But I think when it's solo like this, I think it's so hard for these guys to retire after they win, because then they're sold on I can still do this.
Yeah.
Fuck where it happened. Who cares who was there? I'll get back to Boston. I'll go win a fight in China, and then I'll retire in Boston. I'll win one more. You're probably so high on life that night that you're I can't retire. Shut up. Whatever we talked about backstage, ignore it. I'm staying. Yeah. I think maybe.
Yeah, but at what point does the UFC decide?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
cut you off.
Yeah, like Diego Sanchez, BJ Penn. I mean,
Great
Diego
examples.
Sanchez isn't even that bad, but BJ Penn's a great example. Like, yeah, he's done so much for the sport. Anderson Silva, like, get out of here. Like, you know, but I don't know. It's hard to watch, especially the way it ended. Like, if he had just gotten knocked out the way Anderson did, all right.
Yeah.
But to see him almost quit the way he did, it definitely sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when they said tap the strikes, I was like, man, he probably hang it up, man.
Did anybody instantly? I'm just saying, when you see tap the strikes, do you instantly just have a light bulb moment that you see Rose and Joanna, or is that just me?
I
It's the first thing I think of now when someone taps the strike.
Yeah.
I'm just being just an MMA thing, not taking a shot. Just as an MMA thing, that's my brain goes boom to that fight, as if it's the only other fight where it happened. I'm just being honest. It's weird.
It was the most high profile, like tap the strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely rare. You definitely don't see it often.
I couldn't believe she did it. She denied it, of course, but I couldn't believe she did it. That was crazy. She tapped the strikes. I was like, Joanna, no. And like, it didn't even look like Rose was hitting her that hard, but it is what it is. All right, next up, guys, what do you guys think about the dominant one-sided beatdown that Katlyn Chookagian put on Cynthia Calvillo's ass last night?
I don't think it was as dominant as a lot of people thought. I think the screaming really had an effect there.
100%, Sergio.
I think if Cynthia screamed more, we could have
called the key out.
Split. Like, I think had Cynthia screamed, it could have been Cynthia could have won it. I think it was just Katlyn screamed her way to a decision.
I thought that Chookagian won the fight, but I didn't think it was lopsided. She was key-eyeing and missing by like 6 inches, and like it was like, oh, and then everyone's like, oh, what a great performance, Katlyn Chookagian. It's like, whoa, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not seeing it like that, but I thought the first round was very, very, very close, and I gave it to Chookagian, but I thought it was a close round, and it was what was concerning for, and I think that you could argue that Calvillo, while she did get picked apart for most of this fight, landed the bigger shots. She landed more big shots.
She landed the more powerful shots, but she fucked up by staying at that range.
100%. And that's what was concerning for me, that she didn't try to take her down more often.
Katlyn Chookagian looked massive in there.
Yes.
Cynthia Calvillo. Like, it was like, I don't think Cynthia Calvillo belongs at 125. After seeing her in there with Katlyn Chookagian, it's like, I don't think she should be at 125. You know what I'm saying? Because she looked tiny in comparison. Chookagian looked like damn Megan Anderson in there with Cynthia Calvillo last night. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be an issue. But she stayed at range with Katlyn Chookagian. And if you allow Chookagian to fight that point style fighting that she does, if you allow her to do that, she will key out and jab you to death all night long. She will do it all night long. She can do that for 5 rounds.
Can I just say, if I could ask Chookagian one question today, I would ask her, what is up with her face? Like, I don't understand how she took those power shots from Calvillo and had no marks on her face.
I was like, whoa, that's impressive. What a weird I get what you said now.
She looked great. She looked excellent. She did the post-fight interview. She's got nice teeth, big smile. She was eating clean shots. Listen, I don't care how long you've been training. Like, what happens? You build a force field or like bone spurs? I don't get it. This girl looked great. Women in Combat Sports says, what did he say? Oh, exactly. She's too small for 125. Yeah, I was thinking that. It looks like if Calvillo, it looks like she's just like a little bit. She's on the verge. That's one girl. I think she's on the verge. If she improves a couple more things, she is there. I don't say this about a lot of people. I don't know if you agree with me, but get that striking a little bit more refined. Think to use your takedowns more, and like you win that fight, girl. I think she's good.
But listen, we all know that we're all the same height laying down. And if she was able to take Chookagian down, then like it wouldn't have been that big of an issue.
What am I saying?
But like she just didn't she I don't know how many takedown attempts it was, but it wasn't a lot.
She couldn't close the distance.
It wasn't enough.
She got one takedown. She landed one takedown on Chukagian. She couldn't. She's not. Cynthia Calvillo is not good at closing the distance.
Wait, that really might be true, because how could she not close the distance? But then in the very next fight, 2 fights later, we look at Jennifer Maia close the distance against one of the best strikers in women's MMA history.
That's what I'm saying. And Jennifer Maia is not even that good at closing the distance. Wow. Imagine if it was a fighter who is good at closing the distance.
Oh, I think Jennifer Maia is very good at everything.
Y'all say, yeah, she's good at closing the distance. She's good at, but imagine if it was somebody who was a little bit better than Jennifer Maia on the ground.
Like, who would you say?
Any solid jiu-jitsu practitioner, somebody who would just do more than Jennifer Maia did in top position, in top control, in a fight with Valentina Shevchenko. Jennifer Maia dominated Valentina. In that clinch when she pressed Valentina against the cage and Valentina went for that sloppy takedown, and Jennifer Maia was able to make it her own takedown, and she controlled Valentina on top for the entire round. Imagine if that was somebody who just did a little bit more work than Jennifer Maia did when she was in top position. She didn't land any ground and pound, really. Imagine if it was somebody who's good at ground and pound that was in that managed to get in that position with Valentina. That fight showed me that, you know what I'm saying, everybody says Valentina's so far ahead of everybody at 125. Last night showed me that, you know, really all you have to do is these girls have to listen. Jennifer Maia didn't go in there and fight like Chukagian did. Chukagian was very reserved. She was throwing her punches. I think Chukagian throws short punches. She throws her punches short in just about every fight, but she was hesitant to close the distance on Valentina. And Jennifer Maia showed you got to get in Valentina's face. If you get in Valentina's face and you don't let her do what she wants to do in the fight, then you can extend Valentina and you can have more of a chance of doing things to Valentina if you get in her face. That's what Jennifer Maia showed everyone else at 125 pounds last night. I think that was a huge feather in Jennifer Maia's cap, that she was able to, you know what I'm saying, not get finished by Valentina, and that she was able to show that, hey, I can go 5 rounds with Valentina, but I made mistakes. Somebody don't make the mistakes that I made, you know what I'm saying, then you can, you know, whatever. That's what I saw.
I think Jennifer Maia went in with a different mentality than every opponent Valentina's ever faced.
Absolutely.
She went in thinking she could win.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the people who fight Valentina are aware of who they're fighting, and they're hesitant. Exactly. They second guess. And I think the number one contender, and Women in Combat Sports just posted it, Jessica Andrade, is somebody who has that exact same mentality. You know, I'm not scared of you. You know, Jessica Andrade has fought everybody. She doesn't care. You saw what she did to Rose.
She don't care who Valentina is. Valentina means absolutely nothing to Jessica Andrade. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be a fun fight. I think that's the fight to make.
BJ, when you were doing your thing about who would beat, you remember when I came on, I said I kept repeating Andrade's name. Andrade is the only one. Andrade. I say it all the time. I think that would be the only viable person to bring in to give Valentina any sort of trouble, because she really doesn't care. Let me make this
statement though. You know, the way that Valentina allowed herself to be controlled in that second round. Listen, yes, Valentina won every other round in that fight, but some fighters don't need every other round. Some fighters are very opportunistic. You got very opportunistic girls at 125 pounds. And, you know, you got Macy Barber. You know what I'm saying? Jennifer Maia was able to land clean shots on Valentina Shevchenko last night. If that had been Macy Barber, listen, man, I feel somewhat vindicated by this fight with Jennifer Maia that showed that the gap at 125 pounds is not as wide as everybody is making it seem. Y'all need to stop that bullshit. That bullshit needs to stop, that these girls can't contend with Valentina Shevchenko, because Jennifer Maia showed us last night that she could contend with Valentina Shevchenko. And like I said, guys, and I'm gonna say it, and I just want to go back to a point real quick, John. And I want to say, you know what I'm saying? I fucks with Jillian Robertson because Jillian Robertson fucks with no filter MMA. That's why I fucks with Jillian Robertson the way I fucks with Jillian Robertson. Nobody showed Jillian Robertson love but me, you know, on YouTube. Nobody. And she fucks with me like I fucks with her. And I'm a fan of Jillian Robertson. And I've been saying since the minute Jillian Robertson came off of Tough that I believe that she's one of the best fighters in the flyweight division. And she's shown that she's one of the best fighters in the flyweight division. So what? And for me, coming off of that fight last night with Jennifer Maia, it's gonna make me say it even more that I believe that Jillian Robertson can defeat Valentina Shevchenko. If Jillian Robertson had those opportunities that Jillian Robertson had the opportunities that Jennifer Maia had last night, she would have finished the fight. There's no doubt in my mind that she wouldn't finish that fight. And I'm gonna say what I got to say and end it how. And if you don't believe that, then you're not watching the same shit that I'm watching. Period. Jillian Robertson is better on the ground than Jennifer Maia. And if that had been Robertson, that fight would have been completely different. And that's all I'm saying about it. I'm not arguing and I'm not defending my approach with Jillian Robertson, okay? Because that's my favorite fighter, and I believe that she's the one, other than now Jessica Andrade and a few other girls, that can defeat Valentina Shevchenko. Styles make fucking matchups. Period. No matter who it is, styles make matchups. Jennifer Maia is a sloppy boxer with bad defense, and she was able to do what she did in there against Valentina Shevchenko. Period.
And do what she did was get dominated for that entire fight, except for 1-2 minute stretch where Valentina tried to take her down, but Jennifer Maia ended up on top. And all I'm saying is that what you're saying, and like, first of all, it's impossible for you to say that Jillian Robertson has a chance to beat Valentina Shevchenko more than you have been. But you know, but what I'm saying is that fight, it just, and I agree with Andrade. Andrade can win that fight 1,000%. But let's exclude her. Let's exclude her for a second. And if you're trying to tell me that Jessica Andrade and Jillian Robertson are like at the same point in their careers right now, then like, come on, that's crazy.
You stop adding to what I'm saying. What I'm saying,
you just gave me that look. I'm asking if you're not saying that, then we're good. So what I'm saying is Jillian Robertson in that Macy Barber fight. You want to bring up Macy Barber? What concerns me is that she had opportunities to take Macy Barber down in that fight and just had zero success doing it. Once the fight gets to the ground, is Jillian Robertson a beast? Of course, for sure. But what makes me a little bit nervous, and until I see otherwise, it gives me pause for concern. You had pause for concern because of, one exchange last night. What I'm saying is when Jillian Robertson
an entire round last night, that if a fighter like an opportunistic fighter, an opportunistic submission specialist like Jillian Robertson, if she had that same opportunity, it would be a completely different outcome. If she had the same, it don't matter if Jillian Robertson got beat up 4 out of 5 rounds. If Jillian Robertson had that opportunity that Jennifer Maia had, do you not think something would have happened?
I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion.
Well, that's the way you think. That's how you think. Okay, that's how you think. If you don't see that, then I'm very sorry.
And a lot of other people, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that she 100% submits her. Like that's crazy. Amanda Nunes was on top of it, stronger.
Okay.
What I'm saying is what gives me pause for concern or cause for concern or whatever, all of the above, is that when she fought Macy Barber, she had her clinched up against the fence and just Macy Barber was going nowhere and was able to keep that fight on the feet and then finish her. And
you talk about Macy Barber. Macy Barber is the biggest flyweight in the division. You're talking about Macy Barber. Macy Barber and Valentina do not have the same fight type.
I'm over this conversation.
The point I'm trying to make, and
I've done this way too many times.
Take Jillian Robertson out of it.
Give her the belt.
Listen, take Jillian Robertson out of it. The point is, Jennifer Maia showed the rest of the division that the gap between them and Valentina is not as wide as everybody has made it seem. And that's just it. She showed everybody that the gap is not as wide as everybody has made it seem between them and Valentina Shevchenko. It's about how you approach Valentina Shevchenko, which plays into the outcome of the fight. It is what it is. You can't look at that fight last night and say that that's somebody who's light years ahead of somebody in the rest of the division. I mean, come on, man. That was a contended fight. That was a good fight.
I will say this, like, I never thought that she wasn't human because I saw the Amanda Nunes fight. So I saw a bigger girl beat up on her at times. And then again, I saw her become a human in there again last night where she kind of fell down the wrong way and another girl got on top of her. But I mean, yeah, like, so, but I always thought she was human, but so she is human. She is unbeatable by maybe Jessica Andrade, but I do, BJ, think she is light years ahead of a lot of people. I think her ground game is phenomenal. You know, like, I think if her and Jillian did a Shug underground grappling match, I think there'd be a lot of money getting thrown on Valentina too. You know what I mean? I think people wouldn't really, you know what I mean? I think her ground game might be a little underrated. I think she's so good, you know. I really do. But I get what you're saying. Everyone's a human. She shows that she's a human.
Like, I really like Jillian Robertson. I thought she's been great.
Me too.
But it's not just Jillian Robertson. It's other girls that present.
I know. I'm just saying Jillian Robertson for the sake of the argument. But I mean, you saw what happened with her and Macy. You know, like, and Macy when she hit Roxanne, and Valentina has fought the elite of the elite. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying Jillian Robertson can't beat Valentina or Macy Barber can't, but they're so young in their career where we've got time to see that. I think right now Valentina beats, as you can see, 99% of the division. Yeah, she has an off 2 minutes, but I think we'll get there when we get there. When Jillian Robertson picks up 2 or 3 wins, or Macy goes out there and steamrolls her next opponent.
Exactly. When these girls can put runs together like that at the top of the division, if these young fighters, these young prospects can put a run together to the top of the division to face Valentina Shevchenko, you can't just write them off because they're young. These girls present their own set of weapons, their own skill sets, their own dangers, their own kill switches coming into these fights with Valentina Shevchenko, especially young finishers like Macy Barber and fucking, you know, other Jessica Andrade, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful coming in. You know, you got to be careful. Valentina's gonna have to be careful.
At one point, we all thought Joanna was invincible too, right? And then she faced a Rose. So it is possible, but it like we all mentioned, we saw her struggle for 2 minutes. You know, everyone has an off night too. So I think Valentina is beatable, but I don't think there's anybody in the division right now that could do it.
That's respectful.
With the exception of Jessica Andrade, and she may go out there and steamroll Andrade and shut us all up. But
boy, Andrade, man, dude. After that fight last night, if they make the fight with Andrade, dude, I'm gonna have to pick Andrade. You know what I'm saying? Like, if based on what we saw last night, the Valentina we saw last night, if Jessica Andrade is in there, man, I don't see it swinging in Valentina's direction, man, because Jessica Andrade ain't gonna let up.
But here's the thing. I mean, I know it's a weird comparison, but John Jones has had off nights, and I still write down John Jones's name every time. You know, so Valentina looked bad for 2 minutes. I say, you know what? It's an off night. There's a lot of pressure. Her sister was fighting earlier in the card. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and she went out there and she dominated. She looked great.
Vitor almost finished John in that armbar. He almost finished John.
Chael Sonnen almost dislocated did dislocate his toe, right? He was seconds away from beating John Jones. Dominic Reyes almost beat John Jones. Every time John Jones fights, I think John Jones is going to win. And I think this is Valentina. She looked good enough night, and she still dominated. So it's kind of to go out there and say, you know what, and all these girls can beat Valentina. I think one day we might find someone that can beat her. Right now, I'm just looking forward to the Jessica one because I think she poses the best threat right now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying she does. It ain't got nothing to do. John always brings up Jillian Robertson. It ain't got nothing to do with Jillian Robertson. It's just that from what we saw last night, dude, you brought up Jillian Robertson. You brought her up in this conversation. I mean, you brought her up, but just from the performance we seen last night, she looks a lot more beatable. something and beatable to the point where I think Andrade could beat her if she fights the way she fought last night. It is what it is, John. What you huffing and puffing about, John? Go ahead.
I don't think that I brought up Julian Robertson, but I do think Andrade can win 100%.
Absolutely.
And I think that we're being a little bit critical of Valentina Shevchenko's performance when she hasn't fought in a long time. She's coming off of a surgery to repair her MCL, I think it was. And like, you know, she looked pretty damn good outside of the second round. If you showed everybody that fight, other than the second round, then most people would be like, oh yeah, she dominated her. She didn't get the finish. Credit for Jennifer Maia for being tough. Maybe we didn't appreciate Jennifer Maia's toughness and skills as much as we should have. But in the end, it was a pretty dominant performance from Valentina Shevchenko outside of the second round. And in that second round, we only got to that position because Valentina took Maia down and Maia, you know, ended up on top. Credit to her for doing that. But I just think that we're being like a little bit critical here of Valentina's performance. And I think in the end, it was a pretty clear-cut 49-46, you know, victory. And
I don't think we're being critical. What I think is that she's held to such a high standard in the MMA community. You know, so everybody puts her on this pedestal, no matter what has happened, surgery or no surgery. Everybody puts Valentina on this pedestal.
And that's fair. That's 100% fair. But like what I'm saying is that now projecting that forward where it's like, okay, she didn't look all that great against Liz Carmouche, right? And then like, but that didn't make me any less confident in picking her against Chookagian, who was her next title defense, you know? And like, yeah, she didn't look great for one brief moment which ended up stretching out to the rest of the round. But that was a weird situation, and it doesn't make me any less confident in picking her in her, you know, in how I feel she'll do in her next fight. Now, I agree that the Andrade fight is a tough fight, and I might actually pick Andrade. We'll see. I got to think about it. I got to marinate on it. But, you know, but last night, what happened in the second round and last night in general didn't like make me feel less confident about Valentina. I think it was just like a pretty dominant win. That one weird situation happened and she lost a round because of it. That's just kind of how I feel. That's how I look at it.
But okay, think about this. Jessica Andrade is probably more aggressive than Jennifer Maia. Jennifer, and with how aggressive Jennifer Maia is, she stayed in Valentina's face. Valentina, she was able to land clean punches, but those head kicks, she didn't land very many of those. You know what I'm saying? Like Jennifer Maia was able to dodge a lot of those hits, you know, those knockout hits that Valentina landed on Jessica I. Jennifer Maia was able to block and see most of that come. Now she got hit with a lot of it, but you know what I'm saying? It didn't finish Jennifer Maia. Now, somebody who's more aggressive like Jessica Andrade, you know, if you stay in Valentina's face, she can't get off a lot of those things that she does on the feet if you stay in her face. And Jessica Andrade coming forward like she does, man. I mean, how is Valentina going to fend her off? What is Valentina going to do in the cage with Jessica Andrade to fend her off?
Yeah,
like, the question.
No, and I think that those are real questions, but I'm just saying that like when I've seen Valentina in there against Joanna, Amanda twice, Pena, Holly Holm, you know, like we've seen her fight all of these people, you know, for years, and she has a track record. One like kind of like blip on the radar against Jennifer Maia in a fight that she wins 49-46 across the board. It doesn't really like. She's already done so much in her career that like that doesn't like change my opinion, you know. But before that fight last night, if you had asked me before, I mean, we've been saying this, like Andrade is the fight to make because it's a really, really, really interesting fight. And I don't think like any more or any less about that fight in terms of its competitiveness than I did, you know, prior to last night. I think it's just going to be a really good fight between Andrade and Valentina. I really do. I hope that's the fight they make. I think it's the one that makes sense, and we'll see what happens. Shout out Lauren Murphy.
I want to add to that too. Amanda Nunes beat Jermaine Durandamy 49-46 as well. Does that, did that change our view of Amanda Nunes? Right. Do we still not think she's the GOAT? Do we still not think she's the best 135 and 145 pounder? No, she had a night where she wasn't able to finish her opponent, and she didn't dominate every round. She bounced back by dominating Felicia Spencer. Didn't get the finish. Does my view of Amanda Nunes change now? I think she's the greatest female fighter of all time. I still think Valentina Shevchenko is the best 125er. So, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, she still hasn't, in my opinion, cleared out the division. There's new challengers for her, right? She hasn't fought Jessica Andrade. She hasn't fought Cynthia Calvillo. She hasn't fought Lauren Murphy. Once she dominates those two, if she can beat all three of those girls, Valentina is untouchable at 125. But until then, for me, she's very, very good. She's the best in the world. But we have some more questions.
She has more to prove at 125 to me. She's got more to just say that she is better than all the other girls in the other division, and she hadn't beaten them. You know what I'm saying? It's to me, it's kind of a bold statement to make. But
you never beat the entire division. I mean, John Jones never beat every 205er, but John Jones is better than Devin Clark. You know what I mean? Like, he'll never fight Devin Clark because Devin Clark will never get there. But John Jones,
ricochet shot for Devin Clark. Can I say that
you gotta beat all those top girls to be considered the best? Like, if she, now you're right, Sergio. If she beats Lauren Murphy, she beats those girls you name, then okay, then even I will say it. But you got to beat those girls, man. You got to beat all the top girls. You got to
beat everyone in the division.
I think that you're right. But that's kind of where I was going to get. I think that Valentina has proven through her flyweight run that she's clearly the best 125 pounder in the world. But she has more to prove as a champion. There's something to like taking on. That's what's so impressive about Jones and, even Mighty Mouse and whoever, Nunes, like these champions who reigned for Silva, like all of these, like you have to like continue to prove that like you can stand up to every single matchup, like every single, you don't have, if you do have a bad performance, it's a bad performance that you're still able to win and retain the title. Like she hasn't proven that because like, even though she has proven to be one of the best in the world, she has to prove that.
John, you just took my point and said it yourself. You literally took my point.
But that's different than. But that's
no, it's not. No, it's not. You just said that she has to prove. She has more to prove as a champion. That's what
you've never once said it like that. You just said that you think that these other fighters can beat her, and when you say it like that, it sounds like you're saying that they're like better than her. I'm saying that like she has more to prove, like as
exactly.
But
she clears out the division.
It's on phrasing. It's phrasing.
Something more to prove as a champion is like I would love to see her fight Weili Zhang. And that would be like another division's champion, which is a thing now, to go become a champ. I would love to see a trilogy with Nunes to shut everyone up if she could just beat her now. Me personally, I'm weird. I want to see
BJ. And like I'm not trying to go down like this rabbit hole here, but like my point is that like what I'm saying is when I say it's a little bit different to say she has more to prove as a champion. There's she's beating all these tough people, but like you have to like do it over a long period of time, take on all challengers. Like she has more to prove that way, but I still think she's the best 125er in the world. That's a lot different than saying Jillian Robertson gonna beat that ass. That's how I feel. It's like a little bit different. That's all I'm saying.
Jillian Robertson is the dangerous to her, and there's a lot of other fighters in that division that's dangerous to her as well. Like these fighters are not dangerous to Valentina Shevchenko.
That's all I'm saying.
Real quick, two things. Last night, for one, Jennifer Maia was another girl who I can't believe her face absorbed those shots the way it did. Like, craziest shots from Valentina at the end of the 5th round. I can't believe her nose wasn't broken. I can't believe it was. Yeah. But and also those throws by Valentina last night were so cool to watch. Like the body lock, and then she'd spin her like she was doing her dance at the end, and then throw her. Like that was so impressive.
Very physically strong.
Yeah, and I thought Maia would be like much stronger. I don't know why. Valentina always looks, what's the word? Petite. What's the word? Petite?
Yeah.
She looks little to me in there compared to other girls. Even when she's winning and kicking ass, I'm like, damn, she looks little.
Because she's always so coiled. Like it's like she's like a spring that's coiled. Like her, like when she's dancing, like she's like she's coiled to me. Like she's always ready to strike. Like that's the thing about Valentina. She's ready to strike at all times. Like she can strike from anywhere at any time. It's crazy. So the most important fight of the night, guys, I want to talk about that. The last but not least, the Mike Perry and Tim Means fight.
I completely forgot we haven't even talked about that. Oh my gosh.
The most important fight of the night.
I got nothing good to say, so you guys can take this one.
I'll be quick about it then, Sergio. I'll be quick. I got to say a couple things. Obviously, when they stood toe-to-toe and went, like, hooks for hooks, and they were just throwing, like, we all love that. That was, like, brought you out of your seat. That's what, just right there. I called it a bar fight because that's what it looked like. It looked like guys in a bar. But what happened is exactly what I thought would happen or could happen. I thought the fight would go two ways. I thought Perry would catch Means real good on the chin clean and get a knockout, or I thought Means would work him with his jab and be too technical, and that's exactly what happened. Perry was walking him down head first, and Means was just popping him with that jab. I mean, that was the story of that fight. Was Tim Means decided to step into that trap, that Max Holloway point down a couple times to please us, and then he did what he had to do to win. I mean, good game plan by Tim Means. So, what's next for Mike Perry now? Does he go to the BKFC? Does he go to Bellator? Or does he go get a legit trainer like a Trevor Whitman or someone who can help this guy, help him not be so troubled and get his shit together? Because he's got things you can't teach, like insane power and good grappling. Like, we can teach grappling, but he's got power and he's got that savagery behind him. So I would hope that he can find a good coach now and get his shit together. But I don't see it happening.
So unlike Maya and Caitlin that you've mentioned, Mike Perry wore every punch. His nose was a mess.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't pretty after the fight. But man, yeah, it was a fun fight. And I think, would I be mad if the UFC cut Mike Perry? No. I think, you missed weight. You've been unprofessional. You've showed up without a corner for the past two fights. That being said, man, Mike Perry is fun, and UFC likes guys who sell, and everyone tunes in to watch Mike Perry.
Thanks.
So I think Mike Perry sticks around. And if you ask me, man, what would be more fun? Like, I don't think there's a more fun weigh-in and stare down than Mike Perry, Diego Sanchez. So that's the fight I want to see. It probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of the trajectory of their careers, but man, that sounds fun.
I think Mike Perry can get it together, man. If he gets really serious, man, and gets a nutritionist, or because he's too small for 185.
He almost submitted Tim Means. Who does that? Like, and he's never submitted anybody, and he almost submit Dirty Bird. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. He looked
quality of his grappling. I mean, after I watched him beat Ali Quinta in that grappling contest, like, I was sold, man. I can't lie. That was the moment. I was like, he can with his strength and just a little bit, not little bit, he knows. He has a vast amount of knowledge on the ground. He can escape things and do things that I didn't think he could do. I thought he was more a Miami slugger. I just want to get that off. Perry cares. I think he really cares when he's in there, but I think when he's not in there, he's got like a low self-esteem, something that he needs to like do things to gather attention. It looks, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got a jiu-jitsu purple belt. So he's very, very good on the ground. Underrated. A lot of people, because of his power and because of what he did to Jake Ellenberger,
he always goes for submissions. He always goes for submissions.
Yeah. And Sergio, I'd always heard of his, like, it might be pro, but a boxing background. And you know what I mean? I've never, you know what I mean? So the people would always speak highly of that. Like, he's going to just knock people out. But you're right. He's underrated on the ground. Yeah.
He's also never finished anybody via submission, which might be why. But, I mean, the guy's a purple belt. He just chooses to stay on the feet. But, I mean, he almost submitted Tim Means, which is very, very hard to do. So I think, like you said, he gets a proper coach. Trevor Whitman, I don't even care where it is. He go to MMA Masters and train with Colby Covington for all I care. But I think if he's got a team behind him that's not Lattori, Lattori's going to have a kid here, and she's not going to be able to help him 24/7. So maybe he will. He won't have a choice but to get an actual trainer. But I think Mike Perry, when he's got his act together, the guy can.
He's a good guy. He's a good fighter.
He's very, very talented. But I just think he needs like Joe said, a solid trainer behind him, someone who can help him keep his mind in check. But will that get rid of the it factor for Mike Perry? I don't know. Maybe that's what we love about him.
Last thing, John hates us. I just said I just said Trevor Whitman when I was thinking of that because I thought his style, Mike Perry's style, I thought was similar to Justin Gaethje's at one point, where it was reckless. And if somebody could hone certain things in and teach somebody and constantly be with them, and I mean, like, they're together every day telling your fighter, listen, you don't need to do this. You don't need to take this damage like Mike did last night, just walking him down. You can fight smart and use these skills to – I feel like – We'd be like, oh my God, like look at a Mike Perry that's blocking and bobbing and weaving and cutting off the octagon and using footwork and stepping off and throwing, you know what I mean? You'd be like, holy shit. All he needs to improve his footwork and some head movement. I think a Trevor Whitman would be great, but yeah, it's just
or Jason Perillo.
Yeah.
Don't go to fucking Mike Winklejohn, man. I don't like those guys.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the Diaz brothers. Like, literally, Nick Diaz might be my favorite fighter of all on the top 3 area, but people said he should go train with them because his personality's similar. I think he needs the exact opposite. He needs the first Batman movie. He needs to get out of whatever is comfortable, get out of his comfort zone and train there. You know, little Johnny Walker, go hop around. But we know this probably won't happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
Jan Sterling is officially off 256.
It's off?
Yeah, it was replaced by the flyweight fight, I think.
Yeah.
I got a quick question before we get off of this podcast. I want to ask, guys, McGregor Poirier has been announced. What were you guys' initial thoughts about that? John, tell me, when did you think when we first heard that happening?
I was kind of happy, I got to say, because, you know, the Cowboy fight didn't make a whole lot of sense if like Conor was just going to get like a title shot, like whatever. If it was like, I always felt like if it was a situation where he fought Cowboy, then fought like at the time it made sense where Gaethje, because Gaethje hadn't fought Tony yet. And it was like, all right, if he fights like these guys and like actually like puts it on and like wins a couple fights and like he should get a title shot. You know, him coming back to fight Poirier is like, it makes sense, you know, like it's like a big fight. Like if he wins, then like, I think he gets a title shot. I wouldn't have an issue with that. It's not just like some fight against a guy who has been finished 3 fights in a row. I'm for it. Okay, let's do it. Let's see what you got, Conor.
I like new matchups personally. I mean, the fight makes a ton of sense. I know it's not the same Dustin. It's not the same Conor. So I like it. I think it's great for Dustin's charity as well. If Conor follows through with the $500,000 he promised, I think it's great. And they both lost to Khabib, so it doesn't eliminate a new face like Michael Chandler. Still, you know, if Conor were to fight Michael Chandler and beat Chandler, it kind of eliminates Chandler from being a new face for Khabib. If Khabib comes back for 30,
and then you got Ferguson Oliveira.
That fight is, for me, going to be fight of the year. I mean,
but listen,
Look at Joe.
we're not. You got to stay with Conor, Dustin. Just listen to me. This is fucking. This is so crazy. Listen to me. I'll tell you why. Conor's like the final boss. Conor's like, you know what I mean, Bowser. And Dustin already had his crack at him, and he lost years ago. But now he's been in the little hyperball chamber that Vegeta trains in for all these years, working his skills to get back at the boss, to fight him one more time. And has he learned enough things? Has he leveled up enough now when he takes his second crack at the boss to beat him? That's such a good narrative. Like, look at how much Dustin looks physically. Tattoos have changed. You can see it. People posted on every single MMA account every day the transition of Justin and Conor from when they last fought till now. And Dustin just looks so different. He's so much better. Conor's so much better, I think. I think Conor knocks him out in the second round. But this is going to be a great fight.
I wanted to see Gaethje Conor personally. I just thought that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, Dustin is – I like Dustin too. So it makes a bunch of sense, and it doesn't really hold up the division, which I think is the important thing. As long as fights aren't holding up the division, I'm always for them.
I think we see. I think we get a better Gates. I think we get a better Poirier this time around against Conor. We'll see. We'll see, guys. Well, that's all we got. That's all you guys got.
That's it for me.
I'm tapped out.
I'm tapped out too.
Tapping the strikes.
What's a bloody canvas, no filter MMA mashup without me and John going? Well, me and Skinny going after each other's neck. You know, one day, John, you'll learn to stop arguing with me, bro.
Yeah.
What's up, Alex?
Certainly wasn't after Adesanya Costa.
All right, guys, jump over to bloodycanvas.net. Subscribe to those guys over there. Also, guys, MMA Quarantine, or is it Quarantine Cast? MMA Quarantine Cast, isn't it?
Yep, MMA Quarantine Cast.
Quarantine Cast. Subscribe to Sergio's podcast, Quarantine Cast, guys. Subscribe to Bloody Canvas MMA on YouTube, bloodycanvasmma.net, and of course, hit the subscribe button here. This is BJ, Sergio, Joe, and John, and we are out, guys.
Yep.
Boom.